All right, for this session we're going to talk about labeling and scaling a graph. Typically when we construct a scatter plot for a graph, we have two columns. In this case we have apples in kilograms and cost in dollars. For the most part, anytime you have a column that's on the right side, that is typically graphed on the vertical axis. The column on the left side is typically the one that goes on the horizontal. There are times where it doesn't matter, like if this were length and this were length, it would be appropriate to put either one on either side. But for this particular graphing exercise, we'll stick with the standard. Apples on the horizontal, so I'll write apples. And in parentheses, I always want to put what it's measured in this case, kilograms. And then on the vertical, I have cost. And the cost is in dollars. In terms of scaling the graph, it's nice to know how many lines are available on each side. I've pre-counted this graph paper and it's 45 lines horizontally, 35 lines vertically. I need to think to myself about how I can get this number to fit within that number of lines. An easy way to do this is to just try to think about this as being a whole number. If I round that up to 17 and multiply it by 2, that tells me that I can get to 34 lines, and that's going to scale in the majority of this horizontal axis. So since I'm taking this maximum value and multiplying it by 2, that means that every other line is the value of 1. I'm always going to start with 0 horizontally in the corner. And then I'm going to count 2 lines and put 1. Count 2 more lines and put 2. It's important that once you decide that 2 lines is equal to 1, that you always make sure that every 2 lines it adds 1 more to this number. Now that we have the horizontal axis done, we're going to do the same thing to the vertical. On the vertical, I have 35 lines. I need to use a scale that gets me to about 150. So if I just round this down to 30, 30 times 5 would give me 150. So if I make every line worth 5, I will easily make it to 150 by the time I get to the 35th line. It's also important to note that just because I went every other line as 1 here, I don't have to keep that same scale here. As long as I keep the idea the same, so my first box is 5, therefore the next box has to be 5 more, making that 10. And now I have a graph that's scaled. I've used the majority of the paper both ways. I've made sure that my increments are even, and I have 0 horizontally and 0 vertically starting in the lower left-hand corner.